beneficial to you. I mentioned to Adam, I noticed that there's so many military patches on your sleeves and whatnot. So I can already tell I'm speaking to some very high quality people. So thank you for taking your time. I know it's valuable, and coming and listening to a children's pastor from a church plant in North Durham talk for a few minutes. But some resources I want to share with you, rather than like reference each one of these as I come through them in my information. I'm just going to give you the resources at the front. You can write them down and go and fact check me later on if you want to, if you don't really believe me what I say. Number one, a book called Goal Getters by Nicole Crank. Goal Getters. It's a really great small read. If you're a reader, it won't take you long. My wife gets mad at me when I say this. I'm not a good reader, meaning I'm not a fast reader. I'm not a consistent reader. So it took me like 6 months to read this little tiny book. But I did get it done. And it was very helpful to me. Next is a podcast by John Acuff called All It Takes Is a Goal. All It Takes Is a Goal. Phenomenal. He interviews a lot of high quality people. One of my favorite interviews he has done was with a guy named Marshall Goldsmith, who is an executive coach. In fact, the award for the top executive coach in the world is named after this guy. And he had like a 45-minute interview with him. Just hearing this guy talk, I mean, the dude's got an apartment in the Burj Khalifa, like in Dubai. Like, he's like next level. Like, I can't even like think on his level. But just to hear like him talk and just share some wisdom is really phenomenal. The next one is another podcast by Craig Rochelle. It's called the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. Craig Rochelle is a church planting pastor out of Oklahoma, but he has this podcast that is really geared solely towards leadership. Obviously, being a pastor and very similar to me, influenced by a biblical worldview, biblical principles and things like that in his teaching, but he really gears it towards leaders of all walks of life. And he has some great stuff about goals, especially if you look toward the dates that happen like beginning to end of year. He's going to talk a lot about goals and whatnot for the coming year and different things like that. And then a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And Canada, I got to be honest with you, I have not read Atomic Habits. I've listened to a couple of podcasts where he speaks about his book and shares some different thoughts and whatnot from his book. My wife has read it, and we've had tons of conversations about it, so I kind of feel like I've read like half of it. And I'm going to read it as soon as I get my free credit from Audible this coming month. So I'm going to get it and get that one done. So, but week number one, we're going to ask this question: what are goals and why should I set them? What are goals and why should I set them? And I want us to think of it this way. I have a vicious dog at home. He's 25 pounds. He's very obsessive. He's a miniature golden doodle. He is a ball of anxiety. In fact, he is on 20 milligrams of Prozac per day. I've spent more on my dog's anxiety than I have my own health my entire married life. So that's a great experience. But he is very obsessive, especially when it comes to food, and especially if he hasn't had his medicine for the day. He's very obsessive. Like, he'll attack you if you try to take something that he's eating or something like that. Anybody else have a dog that they're familiar with their love and obsession for food? So my dog, if he had the opportunity to have a bone-in ribeye, would just, I mean, he might actually like physically die of excitement. But let me ask you this: if you remove the bone from the ribeye and laid the two on the ground, would the dog go for the bone or go for the ribeye? Some people say bone. I would say ribeye because it has the meat. The bone, now it has some different things that a dog would like, but the reason it loves the bone so much is because of the taste of what was on the bone. Right? And I would suggest that you and I, we would also go for the steak every time. Right? No questions asked. Me and my wife, we've been married 6 years in May. We went to the Angus barn for the first time. We're fairly new to the Triangle area, so we went to the Angus barn for the first time for our anniversary, and I ordered the bone-in ribeye. It was amazing. I got one of the toppings, which was a bad decision. I should have just got the steak, and it was incredible. I went for the ribeye, guaranteed every time. But sometimes in our lives, we settle for hot dogs. Easy, quick. It's kind of filling, I guess. You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. Popular, it's attractive almost. But if you're going to have a good steak, it takes time. It might need to be aged a little bit. It's got to be taken out of the freezer or the fridge and let it get down to room temperature before you put it on the grill. It's got to be seasoned just right. And then you got to let the season sit on it for a minute so the meat really absorbs what you put onto it. It takes some time. But is it not worth it? If somebody said, you want a ribeye tonight or hot dogs? I mean, come on. There's no questions asked. So our question is, what does your steak life look like? What does your steak life look like? And that brings us to this conversation that we are going to have about goals. What are goals and why should we set them? John Acuff said this: a goal is the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be. The fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be. But here's the thing: to have a goal, you first have to have a vision. You have to have a vision. There was a man who went to visit Will Smith, the actor. Obviously walks into his house and it's a beautiful house, glass walls, but he couldn't see all the way through the house because all over the glass walls are sticky notes and ideas and things written with dry erase marker and this and that and whatever. And the guy's like, Will, like, what is all this? And he said, well, this is my next movie. He's like, how do you even formulate a thought from all this? This just looks like chaos. I serve in kids ministry. That's what I lead. I was sharing with Adam and Clever that oftentimes when I recruit somebody, if they are not of that same mindset, they walk in and it feels like chaos. But for me, it's just like, it's a great Sunday, right? Chaos is kind of my life. And as Will Smith is creating this movie, when what looks like chaos, he goes, Will, how do you get a movie from this? And he said, you start at the end and then make a plan of how to get there. Start with the end goal. And then in a movie, we know we have to have twists and turns and emotional draws here and catches here and unexpected things that happen here and, plot twists, this and that and whatever. Well, if we're going to have goals in our life and reach that steak life that we really all want, if we're honest with each other, like we'll take a hot dog at a baseball game, but we would prefer to have a steak from the grill. And if we want that, then it must start with a vision of where we want to end up. And then we're going to make a plan of how to get there going backwards. Nicole Crank said this: clarity of vision brings clarity of life. Clarity of vision brings clarity of life. If you don't know where you want to end up, then every day can just seem real monotonous over and over again. And then before you know it, you haven't measured or tracked anything that you've done, and all you've done is just existed. And that doesn't sound appealing at all. All you've done is just nourished is not the right word, but nourished yourself with hot dogs. Because you haven't implemented a vision, you haven't made a plan of where you want to be. And then created every single day with purpose and intention and thought. So these things work together. We start with vision on top. And then that breaks down into goals. And then you break that down farther, and it's going to turn into habits. And we got to remember this: a vision without goals is just a dream. How many of you remember every dream you've ever had? Now, most of the time you woke up and you're like, I had a dream last night, and I remember it was really weird. And that's all you can remember about it. It's just some obscure thing that you're never going to reach. A vision without goals is just a dream, but a goal without habits is just a wish. That you think of, you blow the candles out on your birthday cake, spread some germs, we love that post-COVID. And then you forget about what you wish for because you don't actually believe it anyways. A vision without goals is just a dream. And a goal without habits is just a wish. It's not going to come true. It's not even going to be something that you focus on and intentionally and purposefully go after. To have a goal, you must have a vision. So 2 questions to ask yourself. What would it look like for this to be the most amazing year of your life? And I know discussion about goals in August is a little bit weird because most of the time everybody's all excited about it come January 1st. And then by January 15th, it's like, we're having hot dogs for dinner, right? But in August, ask yourself this question. Between now and December, what would it take for you to have the best year of your life? Because the great thing about goals is the goals are yours. You can start them, finish them, complete them in any way, shape, or form, in any way that you want to. Between now and the end of the year, you can be the most successful person you have ever met because you've reached every single one of your goals. And we're going to talk about that in the following weeks as well. But what would it take for this to be the best year of your life? Then ask yourself what stands in the way. What stands in the way? Is it time? Fair, maybe. Is it career? Shout out Medical Medical, right? Is it life circumstances? I just had a new baby. I got to plan a wedding. All of those are fair obstacles, but all of them are overcomable. Because guess what? Everybody only has 24 hours, 86,400 seconds every day. Everybody. So learn how to use your time. Look at it as something to be overcome. And really, when we boil it down, the reason why we don't have the year, the life that we want, the reason why we just have hot dogs for dinner, is because we're afraid. We're afraid that we might fail. We're afraid that we might drop the ball with something, one of these other time, career, life circumstance responsibilities that we have. We have a fear that we might put all this work in and it might never happen. We're afraid. I have my goals on my lock screen right here on my phone. And all of them are checked off. We'll talk about why in the coming weeks. That doesn't mean I've reached all of my goals. In fact, I have reached one goal this year of my, I don't know how many I set for the year, say 10. So I'm 10% there. I suck, if we look at it that way, right? Like that's not great. But I want to share one of my goals with you. Me and my wife, several years ago, we went through Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. It's a great program. And one of the things that we truly have a heart to be is debt-free. Unfortunately, we're not. But one of my goals this year is for us to be debt-free. And we have been working towards that. And it seems like every single year we'll take a step forward and then life picks us up and throws us like 10 miles backwards. And it's like, God, like, what are you doing? I know you've put this righteous desire in my heart, and I'm afraid that I'm putting all of this work in. Whenever I look at the world around me, I mean, you're probably going to blow this thing up soon anyways. Like, let me just get a few credit cards and just live my life. Which is terrible, terrible. Don't do that. Terrible. And I get afraid sometimes looking at that goal that it's never going to happen. I'm trying and working and grinding. My wife, she's a very entrepreneur mind. And I'm not. I'm more like, let me make 10 steps, get to the plan, like, let me administer a few things, and like, we're good. But my wife, she works like 3 different jobs, like all the time. And like, I feel bad sometimes because she has the same heart as well. And we work so hard, but we're not reaching that goal. I get afraid. Clarity of vision brings clarity of life. And we have to be careful that we don't stare so long at our fear that we lose sight of our vision. You might be real hungry, and all you got to do is poke a few holes in a hot dog, throw it in the microwave, and eat in 30 seconds. Or you can take the steak out of the fridge and let it sit Season it real nice. Let the grill get hot enough to where it gets the perfect sear on it. 2 minutes. Flip it. 2 minutes. Take it off. Put it in the pan. Baste it with some butter and garlic and rosemary and thyme. And then pull it off, and it's still not ready to eat yet. Then you let it sit and rest 5 minutes so it holds on to all that moisture and deliciousness. And then you cut into it, and then you get steak for dinner. You see, if we get so consumed with just how hungry we are, and I'm just going to have a hot dog in 30 seconds, yeah, you'll be full. You're not going to be fulfilled. You'll have eaten, you won't be hungry anymore. You won't have accomplished anything. You won't have enjoyed the life that you could have had. So if we stare so long at our fear, we lose sight of our vision. Remember, clarity of vision brings clarity of life. So what we have to do is focus, laser focus on that vision. Laser focus on what we want the end to be. And then we're going to make a plan to get there. All right, so we're going to discuss and do. At the end of every week, we're going to discuss and do. Number one, I want you to take, I got my phone here. I'm going to put 20 seconds on the timer. I listened to an interview with Bob Goff. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Bob Goff. He's a lawyer, started a nonprofit organization where he helps needy people in other countries and things like that. Just an incredible guy. Wrote Love Does, I believe is what it's called, or Everybody Always, I think is another one. I'm not going to tell you everything that he's done because I'm probably lying to you because I'm not remembering it right. But he was sharing a story about he and his family watching a movie called We Bought a Zoo. I've never seen this movie. Maybe some of you have, but he was talking about a particular scene when the dad is speaking to one of his kids and says, all it takes is 20 seconds of insane courage to accomplish something amazing. 20 seconds of insane courage. So I got 20 seconds on my clock. And I want you to take 20 seconds of insane courage. And on the notepad that you have or in your phone, or maybe you just want to lock it away in your mind, I want you to write down what your stake life is. Write down what your stake life is. Maybe it's that promotion. Maybe another one of my goals this year, this is really not as important as others, but I want to shoot in the 80s one time in golf. That's all. Right? But that's part of my stake life. So whatever your stake life is, 20 seconds, I want you to write it down. And if you're like me, you're going to be tempted, don't do this, you're going to be tempted to be like, okay, step number 1. Boom. Step number 2. Step number 3. Step number 4. And then work your way all the way to the end. Skip all the steps. Write the end goal. On your mark, get set, go. 20 seconds. 20 seconds of wildly insane courage. Nothing stands in my way. This is what I want. Three, two, one, stop. If you're tempted to take any more time, don't. Because if you take more time, you'll reason away why you shouldn't. You'll reason away why you can't. You'll reason away why it doesn't make sense. 20 seconds of insane courage is all it takes to begin having a stake life. To begin pulling that piece of ribeye or filet or New York strip out of the freezer and setting it on the counter to thaw. 20 seconds. But then, here's what we're going to do. Because there's something that stands in the way. There's steps that's got to be done to get from now to where we want to be. And a goal is the fastest way to get there. So we're going to look at that fear. See, fears action. And we're going to look at the fear of whatever stands in our way between where we are and where we want to be, between you and your stake life. And I want you to turn your fear into a list. And for the next 60 seconds, I want you to start making a list of what it's going to take for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, that stake life that you wrote down in that 20 seconds. All right, take about 60 seconds. Go ahead. Turn your fear into a list. Fear's action. It doesn't want anything to do with it. Fear says you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources, whatever it is, it doesn't want you to take action. If you're anything like me, it's gonna take you a heck of a lot longer than 60 seconds to make this list. And that's okay. Because we're gonna be talking about this next week and the week after. And we're gonna really break down into the nitty gritty of some details of how you can get from where you are to where you wanna be. How you can set these goals and implement habits and have the steak life that you've always wanted. Ever since I moved here, I'd heard of the Angus barn. And I always wanted to go. And then I finally went. I was like, yeah, I like this. I was able to have the steak that everybody's talking about. The steak that those people over there, they go to that. They go to the Angus barn every weekend. Like, man, I wish I could do that. You know, whatever it is that you want your steak life to be. That life that you look back on December 31st and be like, man, that was the best year I've ever had. Whatever it is for you. It might be you just want to shoot in the 80s one time in golf. If you do, like, let's go do it together. Come on. Share your secrets with me. Maybe another one of your goals like me is maybe you and your family want to get out of debt. So you can live and give like nobody else. Whatever it is for you. Maybe you just want to get to work on time every morning. Like, that'd be cool too. Got Adam? Whatever it is for you, we're gonna get there. In the next 3 weeks, I hope you're equipped with some resources that are gonna help you take these steps to get from where you are to where you want to be and have the best year you've ever had. Thank you all so much for having me this week. I appreciate it.
Adam, you want to print this out?
Yeah, I will. Remember, we got t-shirts here. Aaron, what size are you?
I'm a large.
Aaron, what size are you really? All right, let's, we'll pray real quick and you guys can get back to work.
If I can, in the coming weeks, I would like us to do a little bit of discussion at the end of some practical things that we're getting in and some things that you're implementing as we do this. So just be thinking about some things like that. And if, you know, your goal is like super uber personal and you don't want to share it, like maybe pick something else. and come ready to talk about that one or something. So.
All right, let's pray real quick. Dear Lord, thanks for letting this group come back together to God. Thank you for a company that allows us to meet, dear Lord, and just kind of talk through different things that we may be going through in our lives, dear God. Just help us to remember, dear God, that you want that best life for us, dear God. You want that steak life for us, Lord, and you just need our obedience, dear God. So help us, Lord, to really dive into this over the next 3 weeks. Thank you for Aaron and his commitment to come out here to God and just be a blessing to us, dear Lord. Thanks for everything that you've done for us. Help us have a great rest of the week. In Christ's name we pray.
Thank you everybody for coming. I know it was tough, but y'all made it. Oh, man, that's off the table. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well,
I got that. I'll be right back.
size.